Hello, my name is Brian Dorries. I'm the Artistic Director of Theater of War Productions, and we are a social impact company based in New York City that uses theater as a tool for helping communities address pressing public health and social issues. And we are thrilled that you could join us today for our presentation of Theater of War Philoctetes with our partners and co-presenters Bravehound, a Scottish charity that supports veterans and their families in the United Kingdom. We're proud to open up this event to the public and foster healing dialogue with service members, veterans, and their families, both in Scotland and in the United States and all over the world. Before getting started, I want to announce that for those of you who are tuning in virtually with us, the event will be captioned in English, which you can access at the bottom of your screens now. I'd also like to take a brief moment to thank our partners at Bravehound, which has served as the exclusive sponsor of Theater of War's performances in the UK since 2015. Special thanks go to Fiona McDonald of Bravehound for her steadfast engagement, her collaboration, and her support over the past 7 or 8 years. Our thanks also go to the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation for their support of our digital programming. Finally, I'd like to thank and acknowledge Marjolaine Goldsmith, who is Theater of War Productions company manager and producer, who has been the architect of our work on Zoom for these past almost 3 years and will be conducting today's event behind the scenes. Theater of War was born from a wild hunch almost 15 years ago now, that ancient Greek war plays that were written by a general named Sophocles and performed in ancient Athens for as many as 17,000 citizen soldiers during a century in which they saw nearly 80 years of war, that these plays would have something powerful and vital to say to service members, veterans, and their families and communities today. And more critically and importantly, that service members, veterans, and their families would have something powerful and vital to teach us about what these ancient plays are saying to them now and what we're saying thousands of years ago. And over the past 15 years, we have presented close to 500 Theater of War performances for military communities throughout the United States, the UK, and the world to help frame crucial conversations about the visible and the invisible wounds of war. Today's event will unfold in 3 parts. First, the actors who are with us today will perform Sophocles Philoctetes live and on Zoom from their homes all over the planet. We have a wonderful group of actors with us here to perform today from Rome, UK, Scotland, California, New York, and we're delighted to have all of them with us, including Willem Dafoe, Jason Isaacs, Nyasha Hatendi, and along with 4 veterans from the UK and the US who will be performing the role of the chorus. They are Latoya Lucas, who's a US Army veteran and Purple Heart recipient, Lorna McConnell, a Royal Air Force police veteran, Mick McConnell, a Royal Air Force police veteran as well, and Sean Johnson, a Royal Artillery veteran who's also an actor in the UK. When the actors are done, about 55 minutes in, they're going to be replaced by 3 additional community panelists, veterans and mental health professionals in the UK, who are going to respond in the moment alongside our veteran chorus members from their hearts and their guts to what they heard and saw in the scenes from Philoctetes that resonated with them, that spoke to them across time. And following their brief opening remarks, we're then going to open up the floor to what we hope will be a lively, healing, powerful, constructive discussion with you, our audience today. During the discussion, I'll ask questions about the play and how it resonates with you today. And if you'd like to respond to one of the questions, we just ask that you use the raise your hand function on Zoom at the bottom of your screen to indicate you have something to say. And for each question, we'll call upon a number of people who raise their hands and then promote them to the screen for the duration of their remarks. This is still new territory for us. We've done about 100 performances now, hybrid on Zoom in different forms since the beginning of the pandemic. And it's a new way of performing, and we're always learning and growing. And we're just grateful to the audiences that stick with us and are part of that process. I'm not going to apologize for this. I think we actually celebrate mistakes in our model, because mistakes mean that we're not delivering to you a polished product. We're actually inviting you into this process with us to get messy, to be unpolished, to be unscripted, to take the risk of not sounding brilliant. So we'll just say there could be glitches or technical issues during the event, but from our perspective, that's okay, because overcoming those issues is at the center of what we do. Our hope is that by making mistakes and adapting and overcoming them, we're modeling for you as an audience what we hope you'll do during the discussion when you join us by raising your hands. We hope you'll take the risk of being present with each other in the moment with shared vulnerability and an open heart, This is what makes us human, and it's the only way forward and out of this mess. So without further ado, before I turn things over to our actors, I'm gonna tell you what you need to know about Sophocles Philoctetes. Philoctetes is a play that was written in 409 BC by Sophocles when he was 87 years old. And it was performed in Athens, as I mentioned before, for as many as 17,000 citizen soldiers at the end of that century, in which they saw nearly 80 years of war. And it's a play and a story that begins in the first year of the Trojan War, when the Greeks declare war against the Trojans. They launch 1,000 ships, and there was one combat veteran who knew the way to Troy. His name was Philoctetes, and he guided the Greek ships, the Greek navy, to Troy. But halfway to Troy, they met unfavorable seas and high winds and giant waves, and they needed to find a place to wait for the winds to shift. And Philoctetes knew of a deserted island called Lemnos, about halfway to Troy, where he guided the Greek armada, and they docked their ships. And as Philoctetes was the first to step off his ship and onto the island of Lemnos, he was the first to step into the temple of a local river goddess named Chryse. And as he stepped into the temple of Chryse, the sacred snake of the river goddess slithered up and bit him on the back of his foot. And it was a poisonous snake, and venom coursed through his veins, and Philoctetes fell to the ground, clutching his sides, calling out for mercy, but no mercy came. And for 3 agonizing days, Philoctetes wailed and for abandon and called for people to help him. And the sounds of his screams and the stench of his wound wafted out of the temple and into the camps where all of his fellow soldiers and sailors were waiting to go to Troy. They trained all their lives for this moment, and they had a wounded warrior on their hands and no medicine to ease his suffering. And his screams were destroying their morale and their cohesion. Fast forward 3 days, the winds shift back in the Greeks' direction. They get ready to sail, and the Greek generals Agamemnon and Menelaus hold an executive session. They call in Odysseus, head of Greek intelligence, and they say, "Sir, what do we do? We have a wounded warrior on our hands. We have no medicine to help him, and his screams are destroying our men's morale and their cohesion." And Odysseus says, "Listen, I know we were taught to never leave a man behind, but that's what we should do in service of the larger mission." And so that's what the Greeks do. They abandon their own Philoctetes on the island of Lemnos. And Philoctetes watches his own men, his own community, his own unit abandon him and leave him for dead as they sail to Troy. And for 9 long years, Philoctetes lives on the island of Lemnos like an animal, living in a cave, scrounging for herbs to dull the pain of his wound, hunting down animals with a bow and arrow, an invincible weapon that was given to him by the god Heracles. The arrows never missed their targets, and were it not for this invincible weapon, he surely would have died. But believing he was suffering for a reason, and that he would one day be vindicated and brought home, Philoctetes willed himself to survive those 9 long years. Fast forward 9 years to the Trojan battlefront, where the Greeks have been waging a seemingly endless war against the Trojans. Many of the greatest warriors in the Greek army have died by this point. Achilles, the greatest of all Greek warriors, has died. Ajax, the strongest of all Greek warriors, has died. The Greeks just want to bring the war to an end. They want to go home victorious, but there's no end in sight. So they get desperate, and the generals call in Odysseus, and they ask him again, "What should we do?" And Odysseus says, "Listen, I think we should go under cover of night into Troy and capture the Trojan seer, the prophet named Helenus, and we'll torture him until he tells us the future of how the war will be won." And so that's what the Greeks do. They go into Troy under cover of night. They capture the Trojan seer, the prophet named Helenus. They torture him. And what does Helenus say? "Until the Greeks go back to the island of Lemnos and get Philoctetes and his weapon off the island and bring them to Troy, Troy will never fall." So the play begins with a unit that's been dispatched by the generals. Odysseus, the very man who abandoned Philoctetes on the island of Lemnos, is given the onerous task of going back to get him off and bring him to Troy. But being no fool, he brings along a young man, a late adolescent named Neoptolemus, to help him as a decoy in the mission. And Neoptolemus in Greek means new to war. And Neoptolemus is new to war. He's the son of the great warrior Achilles, who recently died in battle. And now he's come to the Trojan conflict to make a name for himself in his father's great shadow. And this is his first mission. So all you need to know about this first scene is simply this: Odysseus and Neoptolemus for 3 days have been sailing back from Troy to the island of Lemnos. And as this first scene begins, they're washing up on the beaches of Lemnos, searching for Philoctetes.
Here we are, Neoptolemus. The Isle of Lemnos, a no man's land surrounded by the sea. It was here that I stranded the Malian, exposed him like an unwanted baby, pus draining from the sacred snake bite gnawing at his foot, just following orders. I can still hear the howling, the gnashing of teeth that kept us from pouring libations, the screams that pierced the stillness before the sacrifice. No more words. Now's not the time to talk. We must catch him before he catches us. Be a good boy. Go find a cave with 2 mouths where in winter the sun shines at both ends and during summer a cool breeze carries sleep. You might find a stream running downhill if it's still there. Do this quietly. Report to me quickly. I want to know whether his home is the same as I left it or some other place. Then I'll tell you the rest of the story.
That won't take long, Lord Odysseus. I can see the cave. It looks just like you said it would.
Up there or down over here? I can't see well from where I'm standing.
Over here. No sound of footsteps. I hear nothing.
Be careful. He might be asleep.
There's a hovel. It's empty. No man inside.
Look for signs of life.
A bed of matted leaves, fit for a camper.
What else?
A makeshift cup, whittled from wood. A circle of stones for a fire.
A poor man's treasure. It must be his.
There's something else. Rags, caked with carrion. Drying discharge from an open sore.
Clearly we found it, the place where he lives. He must be close. How far could a man walk on foot that's sick from the fury? He's hunting for food or searching for herbs to extinguish the fire of his ancient affliction. Send your man as lookout to keep him from ambushing me. It's me he wants most, more than anyone else.
Consider it done. Is there anything else? Just say the word.
Prove your nobility, son of Achilles. Not only your body's nobility. Whatever strange things are said here today, always remember you came here with me.
Sir, yes, sir. What are your orders?
Pull the wool over his eyes. Seduce him with your words. When he asks who you are, say, I am the son of Achilles. That much is true. No need to hide it. Then you should say, you're sailing for home, deserting the army that begged you to come in the first place, their only hope of taking Troy. But when you arrived and asked for the arms of Achilles, they said you weren't worthy of such a birthright and dressed Odysseus in your father's suit. Ad-lib insults, the more the better. Pull no punches. I'll be fine. Worry about the Greeks instead. For if we fail to steal the bow, you will never triumph over Troy. Only you can do this, not I nor anyone else. Too young to swear the oath to Helen's father, you shipped out to sea alone, owing nothing to anyone. I cannot say the same. If he should see me through the sight of his bow, I'm already dead, and you'll be next. A thief of invincible weapons must be clever. I know it's not your nature, son, to manipulate and scheme, but the taste of victory will cut the bitterness of shame. A few hours in exchange for a lifetime.
Son of Laertes, it hurts to hear of things I hate to do. It's just not in me to lie, not in my blood, not in my father's blood. The man only has one good foot. Surely we can take him together. They sent me to help you, sir, but I would rather die honestly than win deceitfully.
Your father was noble, my boy. When I was your age, I said all kinds of things, but always backed my words with fists. That was long ago. Now I know the strongest muscle is the tongue.
Are you still asking me to lie?
I'm ordering you to catch Philoctetes in a trap.
Why should I trap him if I can persuade him?
He won't be persuaded or forced to do anything.
What's so special about his strength?
It's the arrows. They never miss.
Then how do I get near him?
I already told you, a trap.
Aren't you ashamed of lying?
Not if the lie is our only salvation.
How will I keep a straight face saying these terrible things?
Remember what you stand to gain.
But what do I gain if he comes to Troy?
The bow will bring the city to its knees.
Am I the one who will do this?
Without you and the bow, Troy will never fall.
In that case, it might be worth it.
Sure it is. You'll walk away with 2 prizes.
Which ones? If I knew, I might act.
People will say you were clever and brave.
Let the river run its course. I'll do it. Shamelessly.
You remember your orders?
Of course, now that I've agreed.
Stay here and wait for him. I'll look for the lookout so as not to be seen and send him back to the ship. If it takes too long, he'll return in the guise of a captain. Beneath his words, whatever he may say, will lie a message for you. May Hermes the trickster guide us both, and Athena, victory goddess, who always bails me out.
We are strangers wandering without a map around this paranoid island, wondering what to say and what to stifle when confronted by a suspicious man.
What are your orders? We trust your judgment.
Zeus gave you the gift, the ancient scepter.
Hold it in your hand.
Scatter out bravely into the underbush. Scout the location where he sleeps. Stand ready to help when the lame warrior returns.
Yes, but where's the camp?
How far is he traveling from?
What have he all of a sudden?
Ambushes us from behind.
Over there. 2 openings. One home where he rests against the rocks.
But where is the wretched man now?
Hunger drags his wounded foot not far away from here. He's said to spend his days hunting with flying shafts, consumed by pain, and no one here to ease his suffering.
Poor man, I pity him. Isolated and alone. No one to nurse his wounds. He talks to himself, sharing his body with such a brutal disease.
How does he do it?
The gods work well.
When men suffer endlessly and die.
This noble man, inferior to none, of the first families, claiming nothing from his species.
But lives among the spotted deer and shaggy goats with his incurable affliction.
Starving for human contact.
Crying out to Echo.
Echo crying out to him.
I am not surprised. If I know the gods, this divine pain from savage Crecy, nymph of Lemnos, stranded him here for a reason. Until the time when Troy would fall, his bow and arrows arrested on this island.
Silence!
What is it?
A noise.
The man makes, clenching his teeth in agony.
Over here.
Now, over there.
It sounds just like an animal.
Crawling on all fours.
There. I hear it clearly again. A body in pain. A man in great distress, reduced to howling.
But listen.
He's not far away.
Instead of playing the pipe, as most shepherds do.
He trips and screams, making music with his moans.
Maybe he caught sight of the ship, anchored in the secret cove.
I'm frightened of his wailing.
Strangers, tell me who you are. Sailing ships to a place without harbors or men. To which country and race do you belong? Your clothes appear Greek, closest to my heart. But let me hear your voices so I can be sure. Don't go! I know how it looks, this savage state of nature. I am wretched, afflicted and alone, with no one to talk to. I have no friends. Please, if you want to be my friends, say something, anything, but never leave a man hanging.
Let me be the first to tell you, stranger, we're Greeks, since that is what you wish to know.
You have no idea how sweet your voice sounds to a man who hasn't spoken or been spoken to in so long. But what brings you here? On which wind did you sail? Answer, so I might know you.
I was born on Skyros. Now I'm sailing home. Some people call me son of Achilles. Others Neoptolemus. That is all you need to know.
Son of Achilles, dearest of friends, I knew your grandfather, Lycomedes. He was so proud when you were born. What adventures led you to this place? From which land did you last set sail?
I'm sailing away from Troy.
What? I don't understand. You were far too young for the first wave of ships.
Were you there?
Son, you don't know who you're looking at.
How can I recognize the face of someone I've never seen?
Perhaps you've heard my name or the myth of my misfortunes.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about.
I am wretched, hated by the gods, if men don't know my story. Those who discarded my weak body now laugh silently while the disease grows stronger each day. My son, I am Philoctetes, the keeper of Heracles' bow, whom the generals and Odysseus abandoned, suffering from a snake bite. They left me here to die in tattered rags, sleeping in a jagged cave, starving without much food to eat. I only wish the same for them. Imagine my surprise, son, when I awoke, the tears I shed, the sound of my sadness. All of the ships in the fleet had vanished. Alone with my infection, I only knew pain. Time demanded that I scavenge for food with this sacred bowl, which saved my life. I would crawl through deep mud on stiff knees, scraping my rotten foot against rocks. When water was scarce, I survived by collecting ice. I spent cold winter nights without fire, but rubbing stones together for their spark. I saved myself from certain death. So you see, I have everything I need here in this cave, except a cure from my endless affliction. Listen, son, I will tell you about this island. Sailors know not to approach its rough shores. It is not a destination for men who know its dangers. Occasionally, those who chance to end up here take pity on me with food and clothing, but never, when I have asked, offered to take me home. 9 miserable years, son. This is what they've done to me. The Greek generals and Odysseus. I only pray the Olympian gods visit them with proportionate suffering.
I pity you, son of Poeas.
I know what you mean about Odysseus and the sons of Atreus. They are evil men.
What have they done to you?
If I could kill them all, I would, so that they might know Skyros to be the mother of the boldest men.
Well said, my boy. What is the source of your great hatred?
I will be honest with you, sir, as much as it hurts to feel the shame to speak of it. What happened when I sailed to Troy after my father's death?
The son of Peleus is dead?
His life extinguished by no man, mowed down by Apollo's arrow.
A noble way to die. God and man both noble. I'm sorry, son. I want to hear more about your troubles, but first I must swallow this feeling of remorse.
There's already enough sadness in your life, poor man, for you to shoulder another man's grief.
I suppose you're right. Where were we? What did they do to you?
Odysseus came for me unexpectedly one day on a beautiful ship, saying sweet words such as fate, destiny, divine justice, necessity. An oracle had foretold after my father's death that I alone would take the Trojan towers. I alone would do this. We sailed straight away. I wanted to see his body before they put it in the ground. I longed to look at his face, and the promise stayed with me, singing softly in my ears. I would be the one to end the war. 2 days later, we landed on the beaches of Sagaeum, where I was surrounded by soldiers swearing they saw him, my father, Achilles, standing there before them, still alive. Sadly, they were mistaken. I wept over his lifeless body. Naturally, I went to the generals and asked them for what was mine. I could still hear their filthy words. Son of Achilles, feel free to take whatever you like, anything at all, except for the arms. They now belong to Odysseus, son of Laertes. Tears burst from my eyes. My heart filled with rage. How dare they give my weapons to another man? And Odysseus, who was standing nearby, turned to me and said, "Yes, boy. They were given to me for a reason. I was there. I saved them. I saved him." I savagely attacked him with every insult I knew, and seemed to strike a nerve when, filled with rage, he said, "We were there. You were not where you were supposed to be. Need I say more? You will never return to Skyros with these arms." I sailed for home empty-handed, robbed of what was rightfully mine by the sons of Atreus and Odysseus, and so anyone who hates them is dear to me.
Mountain goddess,
Rhea,
Mother Earth,
Cybele,
woman of God,
I called out to you.
when they stripped him of his father's arms.
Strangers, I understand your pain. As you crossed the ocean, it only brought us closer. It is my pain now, for I know the actions of evil men. Did Ajax stand by and let it happen? I find that hard to believe.
He was no longer among the living.
Is he also among the dead?
He no longer sees the light.
Only the good men die, while Odysseus and the son of Atreus should. Never, but never will.
They pin medals to their chests and command the Argive army.
But what about my old friend Nestor? Surely he would have tried to stop them.
After losing his son, Antilochus, he also lost his will to live.
Where can one look when they are dead and Odysseus lives?
A slippery man, but he will one day slip.
What about Pericles, your father's dear friend?
Dead.
How do you make sense of the gods? They somehow take pleasure in turning the worst men away from Hades. Nobility, righteousness, valor, all meaningless words.
I try not to think about it. In the future, I will gaze at Troy from my distant island with weary eyes. Rocky Skyros will be enough for me, my home, my refuge from memory. And so, we must return to the ship. So long, son of Poeas, goodbye. May the gods lift your affliction, relieve your relentless suffering. Let's go, while the wind remains.
Are you leaving already?
We have to be ready if we are going to sail.
Then on my knees, I beg you, son, powerless and lame, do not leave me here alone in this condition. Take me with you. I know it is no small thing to ask, but I ask you all the same. Please do the noble thing like your father would have done. Deliver me to Oita, my home, and receive a great reward. It will only take a day. Put me wherever you like, the bow, the stern, the hull. I won't disturb your men. In the name of Zeus, god of beggars, do this for me. Say you will, or take me to your home. It is not far from there to Trachis and the wide river Spercheios, where I may see my father, whom I fear no longer lives. I sent so many messages asking him to come, so either he is dead, or the messengers hurried home, paying me no mind. I ask you again, save me. Take pity on me. Deliver me instead of the message.
Pity this man who has endured countless problems. I would wish upon none of my friends.
If you feel contempt for the general, sir, then convert their evil into good.
Take him where he wants to go on your swift ship.
Escape the god's wrath.
Those are kind words, but I wonder what you will say when you've heard enough of his cries.
You will never hear us say anything else.
Never.
It would be embarrassing to seem less compassionate than my own men. If you agree, then I say the ship will soon carry him home. I cannot refuse. May the gods grant us smooth seas wherever we should sail.
Dearest friends, I never believed I'd see this day. But how might I prove my friendship to you? Come with me, son. And after I have shown you my humble house, I'll give you a lesson in courage and survival. The first thing you learn is to embrace your pain.
End of scene 1. So for scene 2, here's all you need to know. Odysseus gets tired of waiting for Neoptolemus to accomplish the mission, so he sends someone in the disguise of a captain to accelerate the scene. The captain comes, hurls insults at Philoctetes, and tells him that he's coming to hunt, that Odysseus is coming to hunt him down and bring him back to Troy by words or by force, whatever it will take. And so as this next scene begins, Philoctetes has just heard these insulting words spoken by and about his arch nemesis, Odysseus.
Did he really think he could charm me with sweet words? After all this time, I would sooner befriend the thing I hate the most, the snake who bit my foot, turning me into an invalid, than listen to that evil man. But he will dare to say or do anything he pleases. At least we know he'll be here soon. My son, let's go right away. Sail for open seas, as far as we can sail from him. Forget sleep. We'll work now and sleep when we are safe.
The wind is not right. It blows against the prow. We must wait until it shifts.
The weather's always good when sailing away from trouble.
Yes, but the wind blows against their ships as well.
The weather is never bad for predators on the hunt.
All right. Take what you need and we'll go.
There are a few things, but not many, inside.
What could you possibly need that I don't have on my ship?
A special herb that dulls the pain of this wound.
By all means, get it. Anything else?
Missing arrows I may have dropped, scattered in the dirt.
Is that the bow?
Yes, there is no other. It never leaves my hands.
May I get a closer look at it? Could I hold it in my arms?
Only you, son, deserve to do this and anything else you should desire.
I do desire it, but only if it is right. I'll let you decide if I am worthy.
Your words are full of reverence, and it is right for you alone, who gives me sunlight and the chance to see my homeland, Oita, where at the feet of enemies, Father raised me to hold my head erect. You alone I trust to handle it and then return it. Your actions, son, are as noble as this weapon, for it was won through kindness, and so will be the only man to touch it with your fingers.
I am not sorry to have met you, my newest friend. More valuable than any material possession is your humanity. Please, go inside.
I'll ask you to join me, as my illness demands you stand alongside.
There is a story I heard long ago about a man, Ixion, who crept upon Hera's bed with evil intentions late one starless evening.
Zeus tied him to a deadly wheel and spun it hard.
But there is no story I've ever heard that matches the cruel and meaningless fate of this harmless man who has done nothing to deserve his pain.
I sometimes wonder how a man can listen to the breaking waves that pound the shores of this desolate island.
What tears he must cry.
But no one hears him moaning as the snake bite slowly consumes his foot.
There is no one to sing him a lullaby or heal his wounds with herbs if he should start shaking.
Like a baby, but without a nursing mother, he crawls on all fours, the infection spreading up his spine.
He did not plant seeds on sacred soil, but shot quick arrows with his bow, hunting down wild game.
9 years without wine to drink, poor man, and only stagnant pools of rain.
And now he meets this man who promises to return him to the nymphs of Malice and the river Spercheius,
where Heracles became a blazing god in the flames atop Mount Oeta.
Why are you silent? Why are you still? What's wrong?
It's nothing, son. Go ahead of me.
Is it the pain of your affliction?
No, it's passing, see. I'm already feeling better. Oh, gods!
Why are you groaning to the gods?
I am asking them to show some mercy. Oh!
What's the matter? Why won't you tell me? You seem like you're in trouble.
I wanted to keep the pain to myself, son, but now it cuts straight through me. Do you understand? It cuts straight through me. I'm being eaten alive. This is no I. There is no I, only it. If you have a sword, chop here. Take my foot. I want it off. I want it off.
What is this pain that all of a sudden strikes so quickly?
You know, my boy.
No, what is it?
Oh, good, you know. Oh,
I can't bear to look at your condition.
I know, it's terrible. It is beyond words. Please take pity on me.
What do you want me to do?
She comes when I have wandered too far. Eventually, if I am still, she goes. Do not abandon me.
Wretched man, unlucky in all ways. Should I hold you in my arms?
Oh, no, not that. The bow, take it as you asked just now and keep it safe while I sleep until the pain also sleeps beside me. And if they come, I beg you, son, do not let them take it from you or we both shall die.
Do not be afraid, but hand it to me. I will care for it as if it were my own. No one will take it.
There, it is in your hands. Kiss it to avoid the curse that brought this trouble to me and the ones before.
I pray that the gods grant us safe passage wherever we are going.
Oh, I have a sinking feeling, son. Your prayer will not be honored by the gods, for as we speak, blood is oozing from the sore, a dark red sign of evil things to come. The pain swells underneath my foot. I feel it moving upwards, tightening my chest. Oh, I am wretched. Don't go, please, don't go. You understand? You know. Stay with me. I wish they could feel this. Odysseus and the general's death. Death. Where are you? Why? After all these years of calling, have you not appeared, son? My noble son, take my body, scorch it on a raging fire as I once burned the owner of the bow that you now hold. Why, this silence? Say something. Where have you gone, my son?
Your pain is painful to observe.
It comes as quickly as it goes. Be brave, son. I beg you to stay.
Don't worry, we will stay.
You will?
Without a doubt.
It is not right to make you swear an oath.
It is not right to leave you here alone to die.
Hold your hand over your heart.
I swear I will stay.
Look up.
Where?
Up there.
Why are you staring skywards, your eyes and mine both reeling?
Release me! Release me!
Release you? Where?
Just release me!
I will not do it.
If you touch me, you will kill me.
You are beginning to sound sane again.
Earth! Swallow this body whole! Receive me just as I am, for I can't stand it any longer!
He seems to be falling asleep. Look, his head is nodding and the cold sweat coats his skin. Let him rest as the dark blood drains from his wounded heel.
Oh, sleep, unaware of suffering or pain.
Gentle sleep, breathe bright white light upon him, his eyes, and heal his foot.
Son, be careful where you stand.
Do not let your mind be clouded by sympathy for this wretched man.
Why are you hesitating? The moment is now.
Choose correctly and victory is yours with one quick shot.
Don't worry, he can't hear us. It is true we need the bow, but it is clear we need him too. He is the one the god demands return to Troy on our swift ship. You should be ashamed to speak of actions you don't understand.
For the sick one waits. Do the thing you came to do.
The wind is strong, my son. He sleeps like a shade in permanent Hades night, paralyzed from head to foot.
Act now and speak later.
Try to keep it down. His eyes are opening.
Never, my dear son, did I imagine waking to find you still here, patiently waiting for the suffering to end. The light is beautiful after sleep, especially when friends are near. I see you have come to help. The generals waited less than a week before they had enough of me, but you are from a noble family. You remained in spite of the smell and the loud groaning. But now that it seems she's left me for a while, give me a hand, help me stand up, and we'll walk together. The wind is right. We shouldn't wait any longer.
I'm happy to see you breathing without pain. I was convinced you were dying in front of our eyes, at least it seemed that way, but now, lift up your body, or if you prefer, my men will pick you up themselves. We're not afraid of heavy lifting.
Thank you, son. Please help me up as you have pledged to do by yourself in case the awful smell repulses your men. Sharing the ship will be difficult enough.
Put your weight right here, and I will help you stand.
Don't worry, my body still remembers how.
What am I supposed to do now?
What was that? Are you all right?
I don't know what to say.
What's the matter?
Is this the way it has to be?
Are you having second thoughts? I know my illness is repugnant.
Everything is repugnant to a man who contradicts his own nature.
But you are acting like your father, showing compassion to a noble man.
I will be called a traitor.
Not for your actions. Your words scare me.
What should I do? If I speak or remain silent, I am a criminal.
It is clear this man intends to sail alone.
That's not it. If I take you with me, you will suffer more.
I don't understand. What are you trying to say?
I'm done hiding. All will be revealed. You must sail to Troy and serve the sons of Atreus.
What did you just say?
There's more. Wait until you've heard before you jump to conclusions.
What are you planning to do to me?
Save you from imminent danger. Then you and I together will save the Greeks and conquer Troy.
Are you serious?
Necessity demands I do this. Don't be angry when I tell you.
What have you done? I should never have trusted you. Give me back the bow.
I'm sorry, I can't do that. I swore an oath to answer those who are in command.
You fire, you horror, you evil man. Look me in the eye and say it. You take my bow, you take my life. I beg you, son, in the name of your father and the gods, do not do it. He won't talk to me anymore. He won't even look in my direction. You harbors, you mountains, you wild beasts, hear what the son of Achilles has done. Holding up his hand, he solemnly swore to bring me home, but shamelessly stole the sacred bow of Heracles. He intends to parade me in front of the Greeks like some fallen warrior. He does not understand that I am nothing but a wisp of smoke, a human shell, a decomposing corpse. You don't have to do this. Even now, it's not too late. I'm lost in your silence, crawling to my cave, naked and exposed, stripped of my weapon. I most certainly will die. Once a hunter, hunted by the mountain beasts. Will you change your mind? If not, then may you also die.
What should we do?
We await your orders.
For some time now, I have pitied this man.
Oh, yes, pity me, son. I beg you, show mercy.
I should never have left Skiros. That is where the trouble began.
You're not a liar, like those evil men for whom you work. Do the right thing. Give me back the bow and sail home to Skyros.
What do you think, man?
I'll tell you what I think, son. Hand it over to me.
Who is that? It sounds like Odysseus.
Well done. It is Odysseus, whom you now see.
So I am destroyed, sold to my worst enemy.
Precisely.
Give it back. Quickly, boy, let me have it.
That will never happen, even if you wished. You will accompany the bow willingly or by force.
These men will bring me by force.
If you don't agree to come.
Sacred Lemnos, where Hephaestus keeps his fire, will protect me.
I should mention that Zeus, ruler of the entire cosmos, decided these things long ago. I only carry out his orders.
Only a hateful man hides behind the gods, turning them into liars.
They speak the truth. It's time for us to go.
And I say it is not.
I beg to differ. You have no choice.
I see my noble father bore me into slavery.
You are equal to the noble men with whom you'll soon take Troy.
Never! If I have to jump from this ridge!
Easy there, easy.
Don't move, or I will bloody my skull on the rocks below.
It's not for you to decide. Seize him!
Let go of my arms. You use this boy as a smokescreen for your deception. Loyal to the army, he followed orders, and now look at him. His face says it all. He hates himself for what you've made him do. It was you who taught him how to lie, you who ruined him forever. Where are you taking me? I am nothing to you now. I might as well be dead. How will you make sacrifice in the stench of my suffering? How will you ever set sail with my howling? Isn't that why you left me here to die? You will surely die for this if the gods are just. They are. Why else would they send you back for me after 9 long years? Oh, Lemnos, punish these men and cure me of the infection.
There are many things I could say, but I will limit myself to this. If you're looking for an honorable man, there's no one better than I. It is my nature to always win, except when it comes to you, to whom I now defer. Let go of his hands. He will stay here. There's no need for him now. We've got the weapon. Tuso and I know how to handle a bow. You are useless. Enjoy Lemnos. Let's go. Perhaps the generals will give me this weapon as a reward for taking Troy.
Did you hear that? He plans to appear to the Argive army waving my weapon.
Don't speak to me. I'm already gone.
Say something, son of Achilles, before you go.
Come with me, son. That's a direct order. Stop looking at him, or you'll taint our fortune.
Strangers, don't you have feelings? Will you abandon me too?
This boy is our leader.
We follow his command.
Odysseus will reprimand me, but I order you to stay while the sailors prepare the ship. Pray that the gods help this broken man recover. But stand ready to leave when you hear the call.
You hollow cave, burning, freezing with the seasons, I am destined to die without hope of food within your recesses. I call upon the birds of prey, the ones who were afraid. Come to me now that I am out of arrows.
This is your fault.
You made a choice.
God is not responsible.
I am wretched, bones fractured by the affliction, isolated, no friends to help me hunt without arrows. I am the sucker who was fooled by the great liar. I wish I could see him burning.
This is your divine portion, not the result of one man's lies.
Direct your curses elsewhere, for we have stayed in friendship.
Somewhere on shore of the grey ocean, he sits laughing as he handles the weapon he stole from my hands. Dear bow, I never meant for you to leave my side. I have failed. The trickster will pervert your purpose and use you for evil ends.
A man may state his case, but once he has spoken, he should not act spitefully.
The man whom you hate was just following orders.
He served the greater good.
You birds of prey, you packs of wild-eyed creatures, no longer hunted from your homes by my quick hands, roam without fear across this island. Take your revenge on my sick body, gorge your mouths with rotting flesh. I am ready to die.
By the gods, if you respect goodwill or friendship, listen to us.
We are friends.
It doesn't have to be this way.
You can choose to save yourself.
Why do you remind me of the ancient affliction? Why have you good men done this evil thing to me?
What do you mean?
You want to take me to Troy?
Yes, that would be best.
Leave me alone.
With pleasure.
Come on, sailors, we must get back to the ship.
Don't go. By Zeus, I beg you not to leave me here, please.
What is it?
Oh, my foot, my poor foot. Come back, strangers, come back.
Why do you contradict yourself?
Do not blame a man for what he says in the grips of pain.
Come with us as we ask you.
Never. Not even if Zeus scorches me with lightning. May the gods, Greeks perish. May the Greeks perish. Those who rejected this lame foot. Strangers, one last wish.
What is it?
A sword, an axe, anything you have.
What violent act are you planning?
I want to cut off all my limbs, then my head. There's only killing on my mind.
Why?
To find my father.
Where?
In Hades. He no longer lives under the sunlight. Dearest city, I would love to see you one last time. I was the one who left your sacred streams to help the Greeks. Now I am nothing.
We should have left a long time ago.
Before Ididius and Neoptolemus returned.
Does someone mind telling me why you're still here?
It was my doing, sir. I told them to stay to right the wrong.
What did you do that was wrong?
I obeyed you and the generals.
And you think that was a mistake?
I defeated a harmless man with lies.
What man? I see no man here. What are you plotting against me?
Nothing new, but for the son of Poeas,
Why am I suddenly afraid of your words?
for whom I stole this bow.
Surely you are not giving it back to him.
I was wrong to take it from him.
This is no time for joking.
Oh, I am quite serious.
How is it right to return the bow I helped you win?
It was despicable. I want to make up for what I have done.
Oh, clearly you're not afraid of the entire Greek army.
Not with justice on my side.
You should be afraid.
Your threats mean nothing.
Not when we stop waging war against the Trojans and turn our attention to you.
Whatever you say.
Do you see my hand resting on my sword?
Do you see mine?
Fine. Have it your way. The generals will punish your insubordination.
Wisely done. I hope you show the same sense in the future. It will keep your feet out of trouble.
What is all the shouting for? Why? What do you want from me?
Listen to my message without fear.
That is what you said the first time.
I have changed my mind.
When you stole my bow.
I need to know your decision. Will you stay here and suffer, or will you sail with us to victory?
Don't waste your words.
That's your decision.
An understatement.
I wish you would reconsider, but if I am not convincing, then I will stop trying.
Why would I listen to the boy who stole my means of survival? Why would I do that? You are the shameful son of a noble father. I hope you die with the rest of the Greeks.
Take back your curse and take back your weapon.
You're trying to trick me again.
I swear to God I am not, with Zeus as my witness.
Those are nice words, if they are indeed true.
Judge actions, not words. Give me your hand. Here is your weapon. There. You have the bow.
You have proven once and for all. You are the son of noble Achilles, greatest among living, greatest among the dead.
Thank you for speaking so well of my father and me. Now, hear me out. I have one last question to ask you. Each man is required to bear the weight of his own fortune, doled out by immortal gods. But when a man insists, as you have, on suffering self-inflicted pain, why should anyone pity him? You have grown savage and will not take advice from any man. You hate those few who have tried to help you, calling them enemies. Nevertheless, I will tell you the truth about your disease. I call upon Zeus to witness what I am about to say. Know this, burn it into your mind. You contracted this infection from a god when you approached the temple of Crisi and stumbled upon the hidden serpent who protects her walls. Know this as well, you will never find a cure for the snake bite until you return with us to Troy and meet with the sons of Asclepius. There, at long last, the burden of your illness will finally be revealed, and together with your famous bow, you and I will topple the Trojan towers. We have a prisoner, Helenus, a powerful seer who foresaw all these things. He said that Troy will fall this summer and wagers his life against his words. Now that you know, you must agree. Return with us to healing hands, then finish the story. Immortalize yourself at Troy.
How can I dismiss his words? And how will I endure their eyes, especially the ones who hurt me? I want to live in the house of Hades. It is not the past that haunts me, but the future, living amongst men. What sort of humiliation will I suffer? I worry for us both. You should not return to Troy, and neither should I. They've stripped you of Achilles' arms, and you want to fight by their side? No, it is time for us to go home. Forget those evil men, let them die. You are not like them, neither am I.
You've said many sensible things. Now put your trust in the gods and sail away from this island.
To the shores of Troy with this wretched foot?
Sail to freedom from your illness.
Why are you giving such terrible advice?
What's best for you is best for me.
Aren't you ashamed to say such things?
Why should I be ashamed of helping a good friend?
You mean the generals? Or are you speaking of me?
You are my only friend.
But you are handing me over to enemies.
With all due respect, have some humility in your misfortunes.
You are killing me with your words.
No, you don't understand.
Did you forget the men who abandoned me here?
The same men will heal you if you return.
Not if I must return to Troy.
Give up. You are impossible. It's time for me to stop talking. You can go on living this way.
Let me suffer what I must suffer. Make good on your promise, son. Take me home. Stop avoiding it and never mention Troy again. I've heard enough of your words.
That's what you want, then let's go.
How you have said a noble thing.
Walk with me.
As best I can. But don't worry about it.
What if they invade my country?
I'll be there.
How will you help?
With the arrows of Heracles.
You need.
I will keep them from your shores.
I hope you're right. Say goodbye. Kiss the ground of Lemnos.
Not until you hear what I have come to say, son of Poeas. Your eyes recognize the form of Heracles, your ears, his voice. I left Mount Olympus to reveal Zeus's desire. Do not sail to Skyros, but obey my command. First, I will remind you what happened to me, the 12 labors, and how I won glorious immortality. You and I share a common destiny. Through suffering, your life, like mine, will achieve greatness. When you accompany this young man to Troy, you will be released from your awful affliction. Then, with my bow, you will bring down Paris, the man for whom the war was fought. You will sack the city of Troy and receive the prize for valor, carrying your spoils to Oeta, the home of your loving father. Then you will burn the plunder on a pyre in reverence to my bow. I offer the same advice to you, son of Achilles, for you are useless without your friend, he without you. Protect each other like a pair of lions. Remember, when you conquer Troy, the gods always demand devotion.
You whose voice I long to hear, you who finally have appeared, I will not disobey your commands.
I vow to do the same.
Do not delay. The moment is now. The wind is right for sailing.
I call out to you who kept me company all these years. Farewell to the water nymphs. Farewell to the waves that beat against the cliffs and sprayed my head with salty brine. Farewell to Echo and my rocky home. Farewell, mountain springs and all of Lemnos surrounded by the sea. Give me your blessing for a safe voyage, wherever fate is taking me.
Let's sail with a prayer.
To the nymphs of the sea.
That we may find
Our way home.
The end of our dramatic presentation, the end of Philoctetes. Thank you so much for your attention and being with us this last hour. I want to thank our incredible actors and veteran chorus members for their contributions today. Willem, Dafoe, Jason Isaacs, Nyasha Hatendi, and of course our veteran chorus members, Lorna and Mick McConnell, Sean Johnson, and LaToya Lucas. We're thrilled that you all could be with us today for this performance. If you've seen one, you've seen one, especially given how each person who comes to our table and performs alongside our actors brings something new each time. And thank you for everything you brought that's fresh and new today. If we were in a live setting, you'd have uproarious applause, but all you have is me offering my immense gratitude across borders and boundaries, across the sea, from New York City to Rome and to Scotland and to parts of the UK and to LA all at once. Thank you all so much. We're going to put our actors, our professional actors, so to speak, in the audience. And as we do, we're going to start bringing up our panel members, and we're going to keep our veteran chorus members on the screen. So goodbye, actors. Goodbye, Willem. Goodbye, Jason. Goodbye, Nyasha. It was wonderful to be with you. Enjoy the audience. And I see that Dan is coming up and some of our other panelists are coming up. And as our panelists come up, I just want to plant the first seed of the first question that we're going to ask you as an audience as soon as our community panelists are done with their opening remarks. And here's a question that we've asked hundreds of other audiences all over the planet and all over the world about this play. Now that you've seen these actors go for broke, trying to make sense of this ancient Greek play, trying to bring it to life with minimal rehearsal. And you know the play was written close to 2,500 years ago and performed in ancient Athens for as many as 17,000 citizen soldiers in a century in which they saw nearly 80 years of war. And they saw a pestilence that killed nearly 1/3 of the Athenian population a couple decades before the play. In spite of the distance of culture and time, in spite of everything that separates us from the ancient Greeks who wrote and performed and received this ancient play, what spoke to you today as you listened to it? What resonated with you on a deep level? What touched you? What was true? We're going to turn over to our panelists, but as soon as they're done, we'll come out to the audience and we'll ask the question again, and we'll start bringing some folks up from the audience as well who want to jump into this question. Richard, do you mind going first of our panelists? Unmuting yourself, introducing yourself, and launching directly into your gut response.
Oh, yeah, my name's Richard Mearns. I'm based in London. I'm an ex-combat medic, ex-cop, and suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder and have a PTSD assistance dog to accompany me with my sort of daily travels. I mean, that was an amazing performance, without question. Lots jumped out at me. So much jumped out at me, and at the minute, so much more jumped out at me beyond the sort of things that came to mind initially. For me, Philoctetes was very much my power piece, as it were. The suffering and the pain that he was going through, and as a result of the bite, for me, the bite itself sort of gave me that real openness about my struggle, my pain, my real hurt within. And I think I wrote some notes down, and the moment around the how he felt about being a human shell. Sorry, you might hear the dog.
It's fine.
He's come up
Dogs
to
are
work.
welcome. Dogs are welcome.
So the how he felt as a human shell, the wisp of smoke, and how he wanted to take his limbs off, his head off, and everything in between. And it really resonated me because he wanted that release, he wanted that escape, he couldn't get that escape, and that was really powerful, and Jason did it amazingly. But for me, I think it was something that really stepped back was when I went to take my own life. And it was that moment when he said he was looking up, trying to find something. And Sophocles said, he just got lost in looking up in his mind, looking at the sky, looking for something to take everything away and trying to find that. And for me, on a personal level, Ziggy, my assistant's dog, is my bow. He is that power. He is that ability to really fight through and see true. And without him, I would struggle. And on another personal level, last night I spent the whole night with my gran, who is on her last moments, and I will be doing the same again tonight. And looking up, trying to find that answer, trying to find that moment to release that pain and really seek true. I just think it was an amazing performance, and that really all jumped out at me.
Thank you so much, Richard and Ziggy, for being with us. So delighted you could be the first. You know, often when we're doing rehearsal of that scene, we kind of stumble across it and actors will say, what is this about? And I've never heard someone bring up those lines, which I really appreciate you bringing into the, Philoctetes looks up and he says, release me. And Neoptolemus says, why are you looking skyward? Your eyes and mine both reeling. And then Philoctetes says, release me again. And Neoptolemus says, I will not do it. And I hear what you're relating to. I also hear you relating it also to the experience of end of life for someone who needs that release as well. And it's such a powerful thing to be brought into that space by you.
It's
Philoctetes,
for me.
next. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. Just to touch on that, it's a real true sense of that moment. I think everyone has, and for me, it resonates massively because the last 48 hours have been hell on earth. And I just think it is just so powerful that because I've done this before and that never jumped out at me. And I think of the realization and understanding that something else will jump out each time you listen, each time you understand. It's incredible.
Yeah, if you've seen one, you've seen one. And the next line by Philoctetes is, if you touch me, you will kill me. And then Neoptolemus says, you're beginning to sound sane again. And I hear in your interpretation that ecstatic state that Philoctetes has entered, where he's asking for release, and then his returning to a sort of almost more rational state, the way that when someone is in pain, they can move between those worlds so quickly. Speaking a kind of truth that it requires someone who's experienced it directly, and I've certainly, as a caregiver, experienced it too, what you're describing, that all of a sudden, of course it makes sense without even having to see it.
And it makes sense for me coming back from, and I mean the brink of suicide. I'm not talking about writing and thinking about it. I mean the brink. And it really, really rings true, bringing that moment back and stepping back from the breach, not doing it, and then continuing. And just the final thing that I sort of didn't say, but and I can't even read my writing, to be fair, but it's that acceptance of understanding that you have to return to where the help is to recover, and understand that if you accept that, you can find your recovery. And that for me is how I got to where I am now without being just a statistic on some government paper.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being first, Richard. I also get the sense that as you talk about Ziggy, it's also about the power of presence and of unconditional love, and how that helps one to be able to return. And as conflicted as Neoptolemus is in his intentions, he ends up being present for Philoctetes in a way that's crucial to his being able to face the very men who betrayed him, who hold the key to his being healed in his return. So thank you for elucidating all that. Thank you for being first. Dan, do you mind going second? You're above Richard in my blocks here.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dan. I'm an ex-engineer. I've been 13 years in the army, and I've got to admit, I'm really, really nervous. I've written a lot of stuff down, but I want to jump to the first bit about the boats, leaving them off and having to make the decision for the great, of all the people. So one person can die and the others can live. And I've witnessed that sort of thing, and it's really tough, but we never leave our wounded behind, so they always will come back. The other thing is I resonate with the cave, because for me, I could never speak to anybody, because the military was always a manly environment, and if you spoke about weakness, you'd get jumped on, and it wasn't good for the greater people. And it wasn't until I left the military that I started talking. So I did feel most of my military life I was in that cave with the smell of rotten flesh, and I couldn't do anything about it because I was too frightened. What a great performance. I loved everyone's, I haven't got the words for it. Yeah, just how it come across, it was wicked, and I really enjoyed taking part. And thanks for the opportunity for letting me come and speak.
Thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate it. The island of Lemnos and the cave could be so many things to so many different people, but it's really powerful to hear your version of what it was to you and for you. And I was also thinking, listening to you talk, that theater in the ancient world, and to a certain extent now, although I think we've lost touch with what it is for, is this place where you can explore the ultimate taboo. The ultimate taboo in military culture is to leave the wounded behind. And the play starts from that premise of we left someone behind. And then we can play through the consequences of having violated that ultimate taboo. And I think there's something really powerful in then thinking about, when it comes to invisible wounds, how many ways that people are left behind on islands of chronic illness and of invisible wounds to fend for themselves in caves like the one you described, without it being necessarily explicit or overt. And I feel like Sophocles is saying this is happening all the time. And I appreciate you corroborating it with your own experiences. And you didn't seem nervous at all in terms of what you delivered. So thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate it. Jerry, you've been waiting patiently. Over to you.
Yes, I'm not a veteran. I am a researcher, and I am privileged to hear many of the stories of veterans. My work has been involved with post-traumatic stress disorder, with suicidal veterans, with those who are in prison, etc. So many of the stories that I have heard really resonate. A lot of the emotions which I picked up on what you were on this performance tonight. And I think that the biggest one for me was this whole idea of identity and who I was, and the loss of that identity, and the feeling of being abandoned as somebody. A lot of my work is on transition and the people transitioning from the military out into the civilian world. And so for me, there was a lot around about this loss of identity, referring to, and I very much so related to I won't say his name right, Philoctetes, in terms of his feeling of being abandoned by his people on an island, feeling totally different, feeling away from what was actually his previous world, but also being referred to as the late warrior, and how people then saw him, the fall from grace, the fall from being this powerful, individual to somebody who now wasn't able to carry out that. And I think the words that stood out for me the most was, do not blame a man for what he says when he's in the grip of pain. And I think that was the bit around about, sometimes we see physical illness, we see it, we recognize it. It's described here as something which, pours with blood and pus or whatever. We don't see mental illness. We can't measure it except through behaviors. And so I think what he was saying to me when I was listening to this today was, really, when people say things when they're in pain, there is a reason why they say them. It is part of what they're going through, and the behavior itself may not be acceptable to us, but it's their pain and we need to accept it. So that was the key things. But the do not abandon me. Don't make me feel like I no longer belong. I do belong. I'm still part of what's there. I miss that, but don't throw me out into the cold as somebody who no longer has a role to play.
Thank you so much, Jerry. I really appreciate all those thoughts and observations connected to your work. Yeah, I'm thinking as I'm listening to you about the flip side of that loss of identity, which is, of course, in this myth, and at the end of the play, and then the myth that then comes out of it, Philoctetes goes and he actually kills Paris, the one who started the war, by abducting Helen. Neoptolemus kills King Priam, and through friendship, the war is brought to an end, although it's a very bloody and inglorious end for everyone involved, the sacking of the city of Troy. We shouldn't gloss it. But that being said, there's some relationship between the affliction and the gifts bestowed by those who have been afflicted upon the rest of the society and the culture. And what happens when we abandon people on islands? It's almost a sickness for us. It's an affliction that we take upon ourselves when we no longer benefit from the gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Those, and there's a reciprocity between that loss of identity and our loss as a culture. Also was thinking about betrayal as you were speaking of it, the betrayal of abandoning him on the island. The betrayal is the wound that cuts the deepest, greater than any physical pain, although I can't speak to the level of physical pain that some of our veterans have experienced here. I know it's not small, but when Odysseus says you are useless to Philoctetes, just reinforcing that sense of that loss of identity that he's experienced.
I think that's true. I was really taken by Richard and what he said about you only heal when you come back home. And I think that's a huge part of it, going back in the acceptance and being accepted as still being part of that, but maybe in a different way. That's where the healing begins. So that really, what you said, Richard, really resonated with a lot of the stories that people tell me around about their experiences.
So when the last lines of the play are spoken by the chorus that are our combat veterans in the ancient world and our combat veterans in the contemporary world, let's sail with a prayer to the nymphs of the sea that we may find our way home. Something beyond the Trojan War is being referenced there. So thank you so much to our first three. I'm going to cede the floor into our veteran chorus members. And of course, you don't have to respond now if you don't want to, but Latoya, do you want to go first, if you don't mind introducing yourself and launching directly into your gut response? You can always say.
That'll be fine. My name is Latoya Lucas. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, Purple Heart recipient who served during the beginning phases of the Iraq War. I was wounded by a rocket-propelled grenade in a convoy, lost consciousness, and I remember being ejected out of my Humvee and just being on this desolate road in Iraq. And I just can't imagine, and the play really resonated with me specifically when Philoctetes is just out there alone. And I just can't imagine being a wounded soldier out there alone for 9 years without my unit, just abandoned me. And, what happened to me was during my convoy, we was hit and the lead car, Humvee, went to get help and bring the medevac helicopters immediately back to our location, which only seemed about maybe 5 minutes, seemed like an eternity. So I definitely can't imagine being out there for 9 long years, to say the least. And Richard, I definitely want to thank you for your service, because I really have a true affinity for the combat medic, because if it wasn't for the combat medics, I don't think I would be here today. It was key to my survival. So I just want to thank you for all of the work that you do, especially in battle. And that's straight from the heart. And I just hope you're getting the help you need, and you seem to be doing well. So that's great to hear. But it's moments, as a chorus member, it's moments when, as you said earlier, Brian, that the chorus is sympathetic. And then it's other moments in the play where, we're going back and forth with him. And just having him with this affliction, being a chorus member, I know it's a play, but I kind of felt kind of bad, you know, going at him, you know, knowing he's this wounded. So that's something that I struggled with being a chorus member with the line. So that was interesting. And then to see him being self-conscious of his wounds. Being a combat veteran, I came home different than how I went. My whole left side was burnt. So I have wounds that was tough for me to see, and because this is my new normal now. That's the way that when I went over there, I came back totally different. So to see him be ashamed of his wounds was something that was disheartening as well to me. And I could definitely relate to that aspect of the play. But like you said, overall, I think when you see one, you don't see all. Every play is different, and how the actors and the chorus members, the different chorus members bring it out. It's like it's a whole different play every time that we perform it. And just thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to be a part.
Thanks so much, Latoya. We actually had Latoya with us for a recent performance with DAV, Disabled American Veterans, another nonprofit here in the United States. And so we thought it'd be great to have some cross the pond collaboration this time. So I asked Latoya to come back. I'm really glad you did. I've never heard someone acknowledge that as a veteran who's playing this role, you know, it's challenging to say lines like that, where you're actually criticizing or shaming someone who has a wound. And I think it's really powerful and pointed to acknowledge it. I also feel like the contradictions of the chorus are something we can wrestle with in a forum like this. Like I've been a caregiver and I've been in the presence of pain, and it's hard to be in the presence of pain. Neoptolemus says your pain is painful to observe. And we all have a limit to the amount of pain that we can be present with. And over time, if we think about it and train and commit ourselves to it, I think we can go longer than we can without thinking about it and training. But it's not something you just flip a switch and all of a sudden you're able to withstand the presence of pain for extended periods of time. I get the sense that maybe what Sophocles was up to was creating a kind of rehearsal, a kind of collective experience where people could rehearse to be in the presence of pain, and also acknowledge that we have limits in terms of our capacity to be in the presence, that sometimes manifest themselves in ugly behavior that doesn't necessarily contradict the fact that we have sympathy or that we care about people, and that we can take apart those contradictions and acknowledge ourselves in them. Or we can not relate to them as you did and say, I was really uncomfortable. I was really uncomfortable being that cruel to someone who was suffering. And that's also valid too. I really appreciate it. Mick, do you mind going next? You're right above Latoya.
I'm Mick McConnell, and I served 18 years in the Royal Air Force Police. I sustained injuries from an IED blast in Afghanistan, which resulted in me losing my below knee left leg. I picked out lots of things in the play, but the one I have circled is your pain is painful to observe, what you're just talking about there. And I reference that to the families that when they're watching you trying to recover and get on with your life and get through your injuries, people forget that the families are there supporting you, you know, and they're going through a lot of pain as well. The other one I picked out is it's not the past that haunts me, but the future, living amongst men. And that's because, you know, Philoctetes obviously was a great warrior, and then he got his injury, and then he became nothing on the island for 9 years. How was he going to go back and restore his good name in the armies at Troy? And I can relate to that, because one of my biggest things was losing my career after my injuries. It took me a long time to get over that. Yeah. So there's lots of them, but especially those two quotes: your pain is painful to observe, and living amongst men. Because my job was to find IEDs, and my dog missed it. I found it, and I can't think what would have happened if anyone else was injured on the patrol. I mean, because I beat myself up about it enough without any, but I was only a person injured, so that was one saving grace.
Wow, thank you so much, Mick. I love those two lines, and I love what you brought out about them as you related to them to your life experiences and stories. I was also thinking about this other line that I heard differently tonight too, or this afternoon, which was Philoctetes says to Neoptolemus, "Have you forgot the men who abandoned me here?" And he says, "The same men will heal you if you return." And it's just tying back to what Richard said about the challenges of returning and the challenges of living amongst men and being haunted by the future, as you said.
Yeah.
It's a necessity to be amongst men and amongst the men who maybe men or women or others who may have betrayed you, or a system that may have betrayed you.
Difficult.
But this notion of what it means to be haunted by the future is made clear when the conflict of accepting help from the very people, the very system that may not have been there for you, is the only way potentially to return and to heal, or one of the only ways, or perceived to be. Thank you so much. Lorna, over to you.
Hi, I'm Lorna McConnell. I'm an RAF veteran as well, 22 years. You've probably guessed, but I'm married to Mick. I wasn't injured in service, but have seen Mick through his injuries. And probably not surprisingly, a similar thing really kind of hit home with me. And it's when Philoctetes says about, basically just wants, if you have a sword, chop here, take my foot, I want it off. I want it off. And then it goes on to say about, about you couldn't know what the pain was like, and I can't bear to look at your condition. I think for me, because Mick kept his foot for 20 months and tried to rehabilitate, and I think honestly that was partly because of me and his family. We could never know what the pain was like, and I'm probably not explaining this very well, but it took 20 months, and in the end Mick had to fight for an amputation. And as much as it was difficult to watch, it was, he partly did it for other people, and to sort of say that that we couldn't, how could then people can't, and that's just talking about a physical injury. Richard, thank you so much for being so honest and open with what you've been through, but people just don't know, that line, how could you know? We just, unless you're going through it, you don't know. And as much as we try and understand, I think everybody's experience is different, but painful.
Thank you so much, Laura. No one's ever brought that line out ever in the 500 plus performances, and I really think it's really powerful. Philoctetes says, my boy, almost like a wishing that someone would understand. And then how could you know? Just right afterwards. And in that tension between those two statements, so much now unfolds since you've brought it into the room. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sean, last but not least, thank you for your patience.
Thanks. My name is Sean Johnson. Served just short of 12 years in the Royal Artillery. Joined in the 80s when the bombing of the IRA was across the mainland and in Northern Ireland itself. And my first experience was as a young lad in basic training when a bomb went off at 3 o'clock in the morning. And we thought it was a lark. We didn't, we were just young lads. But I didn't know that bombing, that first incident of my military life, was going to be something that would set the rest of my life. And if we can imagine a switch being flicked on, an invisible switch, that moment, that certainly happened for me, because for the next 12 years, your engine was running all the time. And then I went on 2 tours of duty and came back. And like Mick, I had an injury. I sustained an injury, a crush injury, and I had to leave the artillery. Very disappointed after just short 12 years. And I thought Civvy Street would be a breeze. I really did. I wasn't prepared for it, but I was taught to be a soldier, get on with it. And I fell on my backside. Richard, like yourself, brother, I went through some absolute frightening times, mate, and ended up in hospital for my own safety for short of 10 weeks. That's how desperate it was, because I couldn't function. I was like Philoctetes. I was isolated in my mind. I was living with that voice, that friend of ours, that inner voice that we spent all of our lives with. It's our best friend 1 minute, then it turns against you in a moment and tells you you're awful, you're not worth nothing. And the words that jump out from Philoctetes, death, 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 because that's all that was on my mind. I failed, thank God for that, and I turned my life around. But again, I used to think, where did it all go wrong? I was the happiest kid in the world when I joined the military, and I came out having a shadow of myself. And I'm still not talking about it, but it is huge. It goes back to Philoctetes. It goes back, we're mere mortals. I was traveling through the States from Miami with my wife one day. And again, I'd never connected with anybody before. And we stopped off in a place called Islamorada, and I noticed this chap. He was sitting at the end of the jetty. He was drunk. He was lost. But something told me he was a soldier or a veteran, and I reached out to him for the first time. And he turned around, and he was an Iraq serving soldier, a US Marine, and we spent 3 days together. We didn't move on down to Key West. 3 days, we lived in each other's companies, and I thought, wow, it's not just me. This is everybody is the same. But you know what? My troubles were 10, 15 years ago now. And I say to anybody who's suffering out there, time is a great healer. You will get through it, no matter how much you see the dark. I promise you, it will lift for you. So we have to connect with that brotherhood and sisterhood that we left in the military. And as I finish off, just those famous words from Shakespeare, we band of brothers. Never forget that, because your family, military family, is this side of the wire as it was that. So I just want to raise them points.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sean. Thank you for all of that. And it's really great to have you back. We were in person in Cheltenham 2015 when my book came out, and I was really grateful for our work together then. I mean, I hear you talking about it, and I hear, we obviously talk with military communities a lot about that connection, but I also, just taking one more step out from that, I get the sense that the Greeks knew, and Sophocles was aware, that we heal as groups, and that there's something really powerful about communalizing our trauma. The ugliness of everything that Philoctetes puts forth, I get the sense that Sophocles is saying, this is what trauma looks like. What do you think trauma sounds like? Doesn't sound like sound bites. Doesn't sound like people speaking in perfect sentences or quietly to one another. It can sound like all kinds of things, but this is, and acknowledging and just starting that connection while having people sitting shoulder to shoulder next to each other was part of a process for this highly militarized democracy that out of necessity built a tool for healing, and that we're just dusting off and plugging in, and it knows exactly what to do, and you know what to do with it. And so it's really powerful to hear you talk about that connection you made with the fellow veteran on the jetty. I get the sense that the Greeks were aware of that from their experiences, and that we see that. The other thing is that it's so clear that trauma isolates, that violence isolates, that the experience of both physical and mental wounds isolates. And so this metaphor of the island of Lemnos is ubiquitous. It moves in all directions. And this larger question of how do we get Philoctetes off the island and back into the company of his community is the question we've come to wrestle with today. And there's so many panelists who've offered really compelling stories and accounts of their journeys. And I'm just grateful to all of you. I want to thank you for your candor and for your courage and for getting us started, both by performing and also by responding. It's incredible to be amongst you and to hear your insights. And the short time we have left, we're going to open up the floor to some folks in the community who are going to raise their hands. And I'm just going to, of course, if we were in a live setting, you'd have uproarious applause from the many people who are watching today, but all you have is me expressing my gratitude from New York City. But thank you. And again, if you want to jump back into the conversation, you have live mics, or you can just raise your hand and we'll weave you back in when the time's right. But for those of you who are out in the audience who've been patiently waiting to be part of this conversation, I'll rephrase the question again really briefly, and we'll start bringing some folks up onto the screen. We can already start. As far as I'm concerned, I see some hands going up right now. In spite of, now that you've heard from the actors and these panelists and veteran chorus members, in spite of the distance of culture and time, in spite of everything that separates us from the Greeks who performed and received this ancient play, what spoke to you today, what resonated with you, what touched you, what was true? We're going to wait for a few members of our larger audience to come up here and join us. But as they do, let's see here what I'm getting. Morag, I believe, is first. I'm waiting to see Morag appear. There's Morag. Morag, over to you. If you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself, we'd love to hear what you have to say. Morag. Are you there? Well, the beauty of our communication today is that we have...
I'm here.
Oh, you're there. Okay, great. Morag, we can hear you. Terrific. We can't see you, but we can hear you. Over to you.
I don't know if I want you to see me. Hang on. Okay, I'm Maura Greeny. I'm from Cooper in Scotland, and I'm the project manager for a veterans group here called Stand Easy Productions. So we do use drama and theatre with our veterans. I was actually blown away by this performance, and what spoke to me was an awful lot of what the panelists have said that I agree with. Jerry, hiya, you know me, hello. One big thing, the first thing that stood out to me was when Neptolemus, whatever his name is, was asked by Odysseus to carry out his orders. What that really threw up to me was moral injury, and that's something that we're looking at the minute. And, you know, if he'd gone ahead and done what was being requested of him, how may that have impacted on him? So that was just one, that was the first thing that kind of jumped out to me. I loved what Richard said, because I also wrote this down, that, you know, Philoctetes' crutch was his bow. It was the thing that kept him strong, in the same way that Richard's dog is doing that. I think it all answers the whole idea of PTSD. It's in your brain. And, you know, is the island an island these days, or is the island the mind that you're in, the mindset that you're in an island, you're on an island because, you know, you don't know how to reach out to the bigger sort of community. And I love the idea of Greek choruses, because they're there visually, but are those the voices in the head? Are those the voices in the head? Are those actually there? Or are these just what's going round in, you know, the two protagonists' brains as to what's going on? So all these sort of like things were thrown out. And I sound really rabbled, and that's the way I kind of talk, but they were things that were very, very, very prominent to me. And I just thought it was awesome. I'm a carer, I'm looking after my dad here, I'm trying to feed him, but I was absolutely drawn in to what you're doing. Absolutely, 100%. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Morag. I really appreciate it. Yeah, this central idea of moral injury, that it's taken, you know, there's lots of research that's gone in over the last 25, 30 years to what we call PTSD, but out of all that field, this idea of moral injury, something that's beyond simply a neurophysiological response to trauma, but has something to do with the violation of what's right. And Neoptolemus is being asked to violate his own core code of ethics. You know,
absolutely.
My father, you know, my family taught me not to lie, he says to Odysseus, and Odysseus is asking him to dissemble. And he gets caught in the lie. And then Philoctetes says of Neoptolemus to Odysseus, look at his face. He hates himself for what you made him do. It was you who taught him how to lie, you who have ruined him forever. And there is at the center of this play various shades, various articulations of what it's now taking us 2,500 years to begin to talk about this idea of moral injury. Of course, there's also the moral injury of being complicit in Philoctetes' betrayal before this all happened, arguably the betrayal that Philoctetes felt when he was left as a sort of moral wound by his own community. And I'm glad we have beginning to have words for something that the Greeks certainly were aware of, and that we can talk about it. I like that very much. And I really appreciate all of your other comments. There's so much we could respond to, but I'm grateful that you could be with us and join our conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Keith, you were next in line. If you don't mind unmuting yourself and launching directly into your gut response, we'd be grateful.
Thank you, Brian. And first of all, thank you for this event. I can't even begin to explain how perfect I think it was. And I'll explain why I think that. But to let you know who I am, I'm a Royal Air Force veteran myself. Did 7 years in the RAF. But I'm now a theatre and filmmaker. I retrained as an actor at drama school several years ago now. And for the last 12 years, I've been working using theatre and film to help people understand trauma and other mental health issues, often working with the NHS and military veterans charities here in the UK. And I'm just passionate about the power that theatre has to do things like this, to bring people together, to get us to realise that these stories are eternal and that they help people to recognise themselves and not feel alone, which I think is really important. I'm also now doing a PhD on the use of film and theatre in the training of health professionals. That's how passionate I am about this method. The line that stood out to me, and I was pleased that it stood out to Mick as well. It was not because I think we had the same thought on it in a way. Was you know, that the line, "It is not the past that haunts me, but the future living amongst men." And it made me think how trauma is quite often dismissed as pain in the past, and that's how we see it. But it's pain in the present and in the future, and it's not just those reminders of the trauma through flashbacks and nightmares and intrusive images and things like that, but also the survivor guilt and the stigma that sadly is still associated with mental suffering quite widely through society. And sadly, it's often this continuing and worsening pain that contributes to so many tragic stories of our veterans taking their own lives in what they often see as the only escape from this kind of ongoing present and future pain. And I just think that events like this, as I kind of started this off with, really is that bring veterans together and help us to talk about things like this, help people share stories and recognise their stories. There might be people watching this that haven't felt able to put their hand up, but they might go, okay, that's how I feel. And I think theatre and film can connect on that empathetic level that other ways cannot do. So thank you very much. I think it's phenomenal what you're doing, and thank you to all the actors who did such a brilliant job, and yourself, obviously, of course. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pete. I'm obviously a zealot, as you are, for the power of this form of storytelling, of theater, and the communalization of trauma, not as something ancillary to the art of theater or filmmaking, but something that's actually core to its purpose. And it's why we have such wonderful people like the actors who joined us today and the veterans who participated, who keep coming back over and over again, because they know it too, that there's something vital in this that we've lost touch with as a culture. It's so powerful to hear you speak. And I'm grateful for everything you brought into the room, and for the work that you're doing. I'm hoping we'll cross paths on the other side of the pond sometime, or maybe over here, and would love to learn more about your work. So please stay in touch with us. Thank you for everything you said. Christina, do you mind going next? You're next in line, and then we'll go down to some more.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm Christina. I'm in Houston, Texas, and I grew up in the military. My father was a helicopter pilot in the U.S. military, and we were assigned all over the world. And and now I'm a stockbroker and a community activist. And like Odysseus in his righteousness, that this is the thing to do, like looking at this larger picture. I've got to win this war, you know, and sacrificing people and the willful blindness to the impacts, you know, and then the young soldier being initially like taken in and okay, this is what there is to do, right? Like the conforming himself to the powers that be. It brought up for me both the way people operate, like dealing just as community members, and like, you know, race relations and class relations, and how people really choose to ignore the impact on the other to accomplish what there is to accomplish, you know, that they feel righteous about. And then the other piece where it really hit me is like, there's a conversation now about corporate greed and how corporations, you know, they're designed to externalize costs. And in the US, at least, they're very, very much allowed to run rampant that way. So it's whether it's pollution, which we deal with a lot here in Houston, and like, you know, the poor communities all around our ship channel, or, you know, or even just the retirement structures, you know, and like empowering people to manage it themselves with no training, and we get the results that, you know, the majority of Americans, over 50-something% of Americans, have less than $75,000 to live on in their future by the time they're 50. And that's just sickly inadequate, you know. And then the real courage that turned around for Neoptolemus, you know, to come back and do the right thing and face the pain that his additional betrayal caused, and then the healing that's available when we're willing to be impacted and we're willing to deal with what we've done and you know, stand for what we know is right, not knowing how it's going to go.
Thank you so much. I love those analogies, Christina, and those connections you're making. And we never had a stockbroker with a connection to the military speak before and relate that to free market capitalism and the challenges of the fact that we live within a system and a world. And I know this is a UK-US bridge event that we're making here, where we're kind of incentivized to ignore suffering that's around us, and also to ignore our complicit role in the suffering that we create. And one step beyond that, certainly disincentivized to face the suffering that we've created by our complicit role in all of that. And that I've never heard someone speak about how Neoptolemus has the courage to go back and face the pain that his additional betrayal has generated. And then by virtue of his presence, which is a pain that's probably worse to observe than the initial suffering that he experienced when he said, your pain is painful to observe, and what it requires of us to go back and to acknowledge the pain that we've caused or that we're complicit in causing. I think that's such a powerful thing to bring into the room. You know, I think about all the ways, willfully or intentionally or unintentionally, or that I've been inured to or habituated, that I abandon people like Philoctetes on islands every day through my actions, through my inattention, through my inability to be present with suffering or to interrogate my own role in it. And I get the sense that Sophocles is trying to bring us into a state of consciousness of that. Not so we are overwhelmed with shame, hopefully, but but so that we'll go back like Neoptolemus did and repair, not just repair the people we've harmed, but repair ourselves, the moral injury caused in us by causing this harm to other people. So powerful. Thank you so much. Stephen, you've been waiting for some time, and Nancy, you're after Stephen. Stephen, over to you.
Hello, everyone, this afternoon or evening, depending where you are around the world. And so specifically, I'm a counselor in training. I'm also a fully licensed counselor, and I'm working on my PhD in marriage and family therapy. And so what was very valuable about this particular drama piece, Philoctetes, even though it was, you know, Greek 409 BCE, how it relates to the present time in 2023 is kind of a general theme that comes to my mind as a poet, as a professional counselor, is, you know, instilling hope. And, you know, when we talk about how specifically, you know, at some points of the play, Philoctetes is kind of more positive, and then others he's drastically less positive because of the mental and physical drain of the trauma, the experience of the bite from the you know, the venomous snake, and you know, being there for isolated for 9 years. And what's very important is how specifically, you know, we talk about you know, we come back to many times the importance of how Neoptolemus was able to face up and realize that, okay, despite what happened, he needed to come back and offer support. And, you know, he tried to encourage Philoctetes to go to Troy and become his friend. And so, you know, one of the things that come to mind from my just creative reading and writing, and also being in counseling school, was Viktor Frankl. So, you know, during the Holocaust period, one of the primary theoretical framings that Viktor Frankl was known for was man's search for meaning. So, and that directly ties into me as trying to gain hope or helping people gain hope in times of very traumatic times that really wear down our mind and body, and so specifically, Dr. Viktor Frankl added to the study of psychiatry or psychology was logotherapy, which had three primary focus when we're thinking about man's making a meaning: creating a work or doing a deed, experiencing something or encountering someone, and thirdly, the attitude we take toward unavoidable suffering. So those three primary aspects of making meaning from Viktor Frankl really show us how there's not just that one particular Viktor Frankl theory, but so many different ways that that in conversation today, and so many different lines of the Philoctetes script showed us how we can gain hope even in the most traumatic periods of life, even if it was Greek 409 BCE, is still relatable today in 2023.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
This exercise in meaning making, this is one exercise. There are many possible avenues to it. I love this question, where's the hope, or how do we find hope in tragedy? And I used to often say that the hope is not in the play, although I think you might be right, there is hope in the play. But for me, the hope is in the audience that comes together to bear witness to the truth of the experience and then collectively to make meaning from it together. But for others, like you, it might also be in the play. I hear you saying that maybe Neoptolemus is returning and helping Philoctetes fulfill his purpose and have a sense of identity and purpose. It's through their friendship and that the war is won, and that Philoctetes is able to submit himself to the very system and the people who betrayed him and to be healed. Protect each other like a pair of lions, Heracles says to the two of them. So I love this. Where do we find the hope, and how do we make meaning from trauma, being two of the central questions that you brought to the table. And it's great to hear from a student counselor and also a person pursuing creative writing, all the things you mentioned as well. Thank you for being with us. Nancy, you've been waiting patiently, and I see some of our other people. After Nancy, I'm going to ask a second question because we only have about 15 minutes left together. And, again, if you've seen one, you've seen one, and we do them all the time, and they're all kind of one thing, and you can come back and continue to participate. But I'll try to perturb the conversation in a slightly different direction, and you can always ignore my question or you can answer it. It's up to you. But before I do that, out of fairness to Nancy, who's been waiting for some time, Nancy, over to you. You have to unmute yourself, Nancy. You're still muted. I can see at least. I think you're trying to unmute yourself. It's a central metaphor.
Okay, can you hear me now?
You can, yeah.
Let me turn off my television. Can you hear me now?
Multitasking, yes, absolutely.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
yeah.
you can hear me? Okay, great. First, I want to say thank you, Brian. You wrote Theater of War.
Yes.
And I read it twice on Audible. It made me cry. It made me laugh. It touched me in so many ways. I teach 8th grade language arts, and I was so encouraged to bring the stories of Sophocles to my students. And I just tried it in a bunch of different ways, and I encouraged and enriched my curriculum. You encouraged me in that way. I even went out and bought the stories of Sophocles, the whole book, so I could read it myself. The way this production, your production here, really came out and spoke to me, I felt that Neoptolemus was all of us. I just really felt that he was all.
Oh shoot, are you there? It appears that we lost Nancy at the most critical moment of what she was offering us. But if she reappears, we'll insert her back into the conversation. But this notion that we're all Neoptolemus is something I'll let float, and we can pick up on it as people riff on what things Nancy brought into the room. And of course, Nancy isn't a plant simply selling my book to the audience that's here today. although I welcome those comments as well. If Nancy shows back up, we'll bring her back in, but I'm going to ask my question before going up to Jerry, and I know Jerry's going to find a way to assimilate it all into one perfect statement. But the question is about the scene in which Philoctetes is screaming after not only being abandoned, but also being visited by one of the attacks that led to him being abandoned on stage. And it's kind of a remarkable thing because the Greeks rarely stage violence. It's often off stage, but this is sort of a violence that's erupting on stage and happening to Philoctetes. And it would have been a combat veteran playing Philoctetes in front of an audience of combat veterans. And the combat veteran who's playing Philoctetes is screaming at the top of his lungs for longer than in my translation, and longer than Willem Dafoe, the inimitable Willem Dafoe, was screaming today. Why do you think Sophocles gathered 17,000 citizen soldiers in a century in which they saw nearly 80 years of war and had an actor who would have been a combat veteran screaming at them for 15, 20 minutes at the top of his lungs, calling out to be released, calling out for mercy, calling out to be seen? That's the question. And now, of course, Jerry, you can ignore it. You've had your hand up for some time, or you can assimilate all of your thoughts into one perfect statement, but it's over to you.
I don't know if I'd asked a doctoral student that question. It's quite deep and quite intense, but it is an interesting one. And it's an interesting one for me because there is the two sides of this for me when I look at it. There is Odysseus, I think is how you pronounce it, who is doing his job. He is doing what he is trained to do. He's doing it for the greater good. He abandoned his friend on an island for the greater good of the rest of those. And his way of dealing with his pain, and I think is quite interesting, is to be aggressive and to be angry with, with, I can't say his name, but you know what I mean, the chap who's on the island. Is to be angry with him and to dismiss him as no longer being useful. You're no longer useful to us, because that is the way in which he is coping. And I think this bit about somebody screaming in agony is, to me, those, and to try and answer your question or even begin the discussion around it, is to remind people that physical pain and mental pain come together. They come together. It isn't one. You don't have one without the other. And you can't always scream about mental pain. It isn't always possible. But where you have a physical scar, people can see that, they can relate to it, they understand it. And I suspect that, and I know little about Greek and I'm in an area where I am totally lost, but that's great, is that being able to get people through drama to use words and to do this, I think the Greeks probably recognized that and recognized that it allowed people to understand themselves, to understand where they were coming from in a much stronger way. So from my point of view, I think they were very clever in the way in which they depicted this, and whether this was a real physical island or the island was somebody's mind is again something you could look at and could question around about this. And I've said enough, because I don't have the understanding of Greek literature in that way, but I do believe that the emotion and the way in which this was depicted was done to get response, to get people to think about that, to get people to recognize the realities of it.
Thank you, Jerry. I really appreciate all of that. Yeah, I'm listening to Willem today, and there are certain actors within our company who were able to do this the way he was. There was a moment in his screaming, and it's partially because of the way his voice is also, like his vocal cords move in multiple directions at once. It's such a resonant voice that he can both, it's like a chord that's being struck in the scream that captures both the physical and the emotional and the spiritual pain all at once. And that goes beyond language itself. And there are all these untranslatable things in the Greek text called Greek particles, which you don't need a degree to know about because they're untranslatable. They're sounds. And I feel like in a sound, something is expressed and conveyed to an audience that speaks to the truth of something that's beyond language, that can't be confined by language. And it begins the conversation. Out of that, language can come, but it's almost like the scream has to start it. The scream is the beginning of the exchange. Richard, before I go over to you, I want to, there's one more audience member, C.O. Young. I probably just butchered your name, but I want to hear you say it if you don't mind. But over to you if you don't mind unmuting yourself, and we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Hi, my name is Soyoung Lee.
And Lee, thank you so much, Sion Lee. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, I'm not really good with literature, but what I felt from Philoctetes screaming to the armies, that I thought he was scared of showing himself, not like a warrior before, but like a wretched person, like an old, wretched human that no longer can be a warrior or a loyal, strong warrior. So to me, it felt like those screaming was more like a fear. He was kind of like scared to show himself, show his show himself, which is really weak and full of pain and trauma. And because I don't know, as you said, kind of like voice of Willem Dafoe, it felt like more scary and sad to me.
I love that interpretation. I think that's so powerful. And I've never heard someone say that either. Often people will talk about how the scream is an expression of rage or shame or guilt or loss or physical and emotional pain at the same time. But I hear a nuance in what you're offering, Soyoung, that I think is really powerful, which is there's also the scream, the agony of being seen as in one's most vulnerable state and feeling like you're being watched and perceived and you have no control over it. I mean, people keep talking about, people have made the analogy between Philoctetes' bow and a kind of talisman, or Ziggy, Richard's dog, but, and it is, there's no question that interpretation is true, but it's also his physical form of protection and survival. And of course that is true too, but he's asked to put it down. You know, he's asked to give up the very thing that's kept him alive, and to be the most vulnerable state he could possibly be in front of other people, including the people who betrayed him. And there's an agony in that maybe Sophocles is speaking to as we all observe and watch. And maybe that's what Nancy meant when she said, we're all Neoptolemus, because we're watching this person be so vulnerable, and there's an agony in being observed in this way. And one of the things I'm grateful for is that we then get to break open the play and acknowledge that we weren't just consuming this pain. We weren't just watching. In fact, it awakened something in us that's caused us now to be able to have this conversation. The screaming served us. It was an act of service, that there is something in the wound that can actually initiate healing. You know, Joseph Campbell talks about the wounded healer. Well, Philoctetes is healing, and Willem is healing, and Richard is healing, and others who've spoken are healing us by being vulnerable, by acknowledging this about, and then the conversation can start. But I appreciate your interpretation, which I've never heard before, and I really like it a lot. We're down to 2 minutes, and so I often am, guilty of pushing way past our time. The first time we did this, we were in front of 400 Marines. Some of you probably heard this, and we had 45 minutes for the discussion, and the discussion lasted 3.5 hours and had to be cut off at midnight. And for some of you, it's getting later on the other side of the planet. So we won't do that tonight, just with the invitation to come back and be part of these. But I know we could talk all night, and I know some of you would stay. And I'm grateful for everyone who's with us who didn't get a chance to speak, who's just present, because that also contributes at a certain level too, because we all know that we're watching and experiencing this together at the same time. Richard, no pressure to sum everything up into one perfect statement, but you're going to have the last word of this conversation this afternoon.
Yeah, well, I've redressed what I was going to say from your question.
Good. That's always the hope. Yeah.
It's always the trick. The scream is ever present. Just because, and William depicted it amazingly, just because it is there and visible to you in that moment, it is ever present for that person. My ability to demonstrate my vulnerability in order to assist and help others is where I think that this comes from. Your translation of this has been incredible, and it was before. but it's that ability for Philoctetes to stand in front of 17,000 and scream and show that he is vulnerable, to show that his weakness is present, to allow people to accept him for him. For me, that is what I try and do. Sometimes it breaks me. Sometimes it really, really kicks me. But other times it helps others. And I think that is what you do. That is what everyone else has done here today. And as the first person to speak and the last person to speak, I'm honored, but genuinely be vulnerable, accept you, get you to the front, because that's where you will help others.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I think you're so right. I don't personally believe with great conviction in much, but this virtuous cycle that you refer to between being vulnerable and helping others to heal, and then by virtue of observing other people healing because of your vulnerability, healing yourself. I do believe that that's part of our spiritual, emotional, physical reality. And it's kind of a remarkable element of what it means to be human. And the Greeks were tapping into it. And many people on the screen tap into it in their own ways. Bravehound does it with the unconditional love of dogs and the community that can create, and lots of other programs. We do it this way. Others who've joined us do it through their work with filmmaking. There are many roads to this reciprocity. But this virtuous cycle that you speak of, lifting other people out of isolation and off islands by being vulnerable, that screaming and making yourself vulnerable actually can be an act of service by being present for others, and also acknowledging that they are not the only people on the planet who have screams in their heads. If we had one message to deliver, this is our benediction. You've heard it probably before if you've been to one of our events, but if we had one message delivered to you from Sophocles, it's simply this: if you related to anything that was said on the screen, in the discussion, in the performance, you know this: you're not alone in this room we've created together across countries and oceans all over this planet, in this moment that we're still crawling up out of isolation. And I hope we make our way back into the community, but I also understand that, there's lots to process over the last 3 years that we haven't even begun to touch. You're not alone across the country and the world. This marks the end of the 500-something performance of Philoctetes. I fear if I live long enough, in my 90s, we'll still be doing Philoctetes, because it works every time. And it's so powerful a play. Most critically, you are not alone across time. And if that's all you heard, that across time people have struggled and felt these emotions that we've been talking about today, then our work will be well served. But if you received more in all the complexity of what's been exchanged today, and it made you want to engage with other people beyond the screen, perhaps people that you trust, or maybe people you haven't learned to love or trust, you take a risk with, and maybe our work will have exceeded all of our expectations. At the end of an early performance, The Theater of War, a female general stood up and answered the question I often ask: why do you think Sophocles wrote this play? And she said, I think he wrote the play to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And that wasn't her quote. She was pulling from, so this is actually a unclear lineage of etymology, but I really love that is something that really encapsulates what we hope happens for everyone every time, that we're comforted by what brings us together across very disparate experiences. We can't know each other's material experiences, but we can understand isolation, we can understand shame, we can understand loss, we can understand, and there are many roads to those experiences, and we can meet there with the help of the mediation of the play. We can that through a story, we can initiate a conversation that can begin a process of healing. That's comforting. And then the afflicting part, which we just mean as a charge to action, that there's so much more work to be done in our world in which we're disincentivized from seeing and hearing each other. To address the screams of Philoctetes and the heads of people who might be sitting to our left and our right at any point in time, though we can't hear them. And it's with that sense of affliction that we leave you, but not by trying to put a bow on this conversation, simply in ellipses. But it's a sense of affliction that we hope will lead to more conversation and more exchange and more complexity of dialogue and more action, both interpersonally, but even on a larger scale culturally. And that's the hope of why we do this every time. I want to thank our actors, our panelists, our chorus of veterans for their participation and their contributions. I want to thank all the people who joined us on the screen and off the screen and focused their attention on Philoctetes and our exchange today. I want to thank Bravehound, our partner in the UK, and Fiona McDonald for continuing to engage with us. I hope we get to do the next one over in the UK, but it's been really powerful using Zoom to engage this way. I want to thank Marjolaine Goldsmith, our company manager producer, for making all this happen behind the scenes. Marjolaine is a sorceress and wizard of Zoom and has made this all possible. We wouldn't be doing it without her. And of course, I want to thank the Mellon Foundation for their ongoing support for our digital programming. We take your feedback very seriously. So as you close out today, there's a survey will pop up that is partially from Bravehound, our partner in the UK. We'd be grateful if you give us and them your feedback, because it will lead to more performances. It also lead to us doing the work better and more efficiently and effectively. Also, we don't have a date quite on the horizon yet to announce, but I can tell you that our next performance, which we'll be announcing, and you'll get an email because you're on our email list, whether you like it or not now, is going to be on February 8th. It'll be late for the UK, but we're doing our Frederick Douglass project, where an actor will be reading a late speech of Frederick Douglass online, and we'll be having a conversation, wide-ranging conversation about the prophecy of what he put forth in that speech toward the end of the 19th century. And we invite you to come back for that. And later in the month, our Nurse Antigone initiative with frontline nurses in the chorus of the play, talking about the impact of the pandemic on nursing. We'd love to have you be part of that conversation as well. Again, if you've seen one, you've seen one. We'll keep inviting you and hoping that this chorus will just get larger and larger. You'll recommend this to your friends and your colleagues and your family members, that you'll follow us at Theater of War on social media to find out more about what we're doing in the world. And that we'll see you and hear from you all again. And with that, I just want to thank you all again for being with us. It's been an absolute privilege and honor hearing your insights and engaging with you today. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and that we'll see you again on February 8th or soon thereafter. Be well, be safe. And again, if we were in a live setting, it'd be uproarious applause, but all you have is me signing off from New York City, offering my immense gratitude to you all. Have a great night.